Ambassador of Chile to Republic of Korea, Mathias Francke, and the moderator, Mr. Hyun-kyum, the head of the Executive Committee of World Ocean Forum. 네, 고맙습니다. 자, 그럼 우리 사회를 맡은 좌장님께 마이크를 넘기도록 하겠습니다.
So now I'd like to turn over the microphone to the moderator of this track 1.
Good afternoon. I'm very honored and privileged to moderate this special talk with the distinguished guests here. My name is Hyun-kyum. I'm the chair of the Planning Committee for the World Ocean Forum. Very nice to meet you all. The World Ocean Forum features this special talk for the first time in its history. And in this session, we will discuss the era of hyperocean and how to link that to World Expo 2030 we want to have in Busan. And the three distinguished guests here are the ones who can address questions related to the agenda for Busan, which is World Expo 2030. So I would like to invite the panelists. First, Minister Cho Seung-hwan of Oceans and Fisheries. Minister Cho was born in Busan. He passed the government officials examination in 1991. He served as the head of marine policy, and he also served as the president of KIMS, and he was inaugurated as the Minister of Oceans and Fisheries. Well, he is a classical technocrat. Next, I'd like to turn to Mayor Park Hyeong-joon of Busan Metropolitan City Government. Mayor Park served as the National Assembly member, and he also served as a special advisor to the president, and he also served as the Secretary General at the National Assembly, and he also served as the mayor of the Metropolitan City Government as the 38th Metropolitan City Government mayor, and he is also serving as the 39th Busan Metropolitan City mayor, and we are also joined by His Excellency Ambassador of Chile to Korea. Now, I'd like to start with Mr. Cho for the special talk. Well, the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries is in charge of the candidate site for Busan World Expo 2030, and Mayor Park is the head of the Busan Metropolitan City, which is the candidate city for 2030. And Mr. Ambassador is known for his love for Korea, especially Busan. As you know all too well, Chile has the longest coastal line in the world and is a maritime superpower in Latin America. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. My introduction of our three panelists was too short, and as you know, Mr. Cho and Mayor Park are the co-organizing chairs for the World Ocean Forum. And President Kim of Busan Daily mentioned in his opening remarks that this year marks the 16th anniversary of the World Ocean Forum, and even during the pandemic, this World Ocean Forum has continued. And I believe you must be filled with a great emotion as we have this offline forum for the first time in 3 years. So would you please share your welcoming remarks with those who are joining us online and offline? First, Mr. Cho, please. Very nice to meet you all. I am Cho Seung-hwan, Minister of Oceans and Fisheries. Congratulations on the 16th anniversary of the World Ocean Forum. And as I see all of you in person in this hall, well, actually, I was one of the members in the planning committee of the World Ocean Forum when this forum was inaugurated 16 years ago. And this forum has grown to become a Korean version of Davos Forum in the maritime field. So I'm so thrilled and excited to see its development. And I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the efforts and dedication of all those who have made this forum possible, especially President Kim of Busan Daily and Chairman Kim Hyun-kyum, as well as Mayor Park, for their hard work and dedication. And there are so many people to have not spared any support for the World Ocean Forum. I'd like to thank you all. And this forum will be a venue for us to look for some insight for oceans to serve as a channel for the future. Thank you.
다음으로 박영준 시장님께서도
Next to Mayor Park. Thank you very much. So the city of Busan, we are very proud of this World Ocean Forum, the global leading forum in the marine sector, and I'm very pleased to see the opening of this forum. Because of the COVID pandemic, for a few years, we were not able to have a sort of the proper forum. But this year, we now see large turnout and on-site. So I hope that the World Ocean Forum will continue to grow and evolve so that it could be a big grand gathering that brings together all the experts of the marine sector in Korea as well as outside Korea. I'd like to thank the Kim Jin-soo, CEO of the Busan Daily newspaper, as well as all the members of the planning committee. Thank you very much. And also today we are very honored to have the Cho Seung-hwan, Minister of the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. As you know, the Busan, if you look at the city on the map, it's actually a gateway city to the Eurasian continent. And also the Busan is the world's second largest transshipment port, and it's a city that lives on the marine industry. And as a marine capital, Busan is a really open city as well. For the future of humanity, I believe that the marine sector plays a crucial role, and Busan City has embarked on various new experimentations to come up with the innovative solutions for a marine environment. In particular, in track 2, we will be talking about the floating island, which is a pursuit as a part of the UN Habitat project, and we were selected to host this floating settlement. And also in our bid to the host World Expo, Busan is striving to renew itself as a new environment-friendly leading marine city. Once again, I would like to thank you all for your efforts to put together this World Ocean Forum, and also I would like to thank all the visitors from traveling all the distance to Busan. And also I'm very pleased to have this kind of opportunity to talk about the future of Busan and future of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Now we are joined by Mr. Mathias Francke, the Honorable Ambassador of Chile to ROK. Would you please make a brief introduction to Chile and as well as sharing your welcoming message?
Mr. Cho, Mayor Park, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. It's an honor. It's always nice to come to Busan. I've been an ambassador here in Korea for only 4 months, but I've been already twice in Busan. So it's always nice to be more close. Okay. So it's always nice to be out of Seoul, a hectic city, to come here to Busan and enjoy the beaches and the port and the city and the people, of course. Thank you much for inviting me as representative of Chile, a country who shares with Korea values, but also we share an ocean, a big ocean. We are in the other corner of the ocean. But we also share the importance of conservation of our marine resources, the conservation of our waters, the conservation of our land. We have a foreign policy in Chile that we call it a turquoise foreign policy. It's based on the protection of the earth, the land, the biodiversity. That's the green part of the turquoise. And the blue is the protection of the ocean. So the mix of green and blue makes it turquoise. So that's a very important pillar of our foreign policy. So very much here to be here to share our experience and to talk also to you and discuss ways how we move forward in this very important agenda. 감사합니다.
아주 좋은 말씀 감사합니다. 자, 그럼 지금부터
Thank you very much. Now, we are going to have the discussion on the Marine and World Expo. Since the Minister Cho was the first to deliver the speech, I would like to ask the question to Mayor Park first. The Busan and the Korean government delegation visited Paris, France on the 7th of September to formally submit the bid to host the World Expo in 2030. So have your strategy become different before and after the official submission? So do you really think that the real competition has already started? Before talking about strategy and competition, I would like to briefly explain you about the changes in the nature of the World Expo. As you know, in the past, the World Expo was for the presentation of new technologies and innovative products. However, nowadays, the Expo is not just about the platform to showcase new products and new technologies. Rather, it's a platform that shows the vision as well as the values that humanity should cherish for its future. And also in this process, countries around the world are gathered together. And it also shows what kind of cooperation will be required for the whole global community to move toward. So I think that the latter part is more important nowadays on the World Expo. In other words, it's not just about the display of the new products and new technologies, it's the display of value and civilization. And in the sense, in this era of making a huge transition in the human civilization, I believe Busan is really the right candidate to host the 2030 World Expo. So we have 3 themes for the 2030 World Expo. The number 1 is about the climate change that the whole world is facing. So how to cope with this crisis. That's the number 1 theme. And number 2 is in responding to climate change, we have to utilize new technologies. And also in this era of digital transition, technology is truly a key that determines the future of humanities. But the problem is that for whom should the technologies be used and how and in what ways? So the second theme that we submitted is the human aspect of the technology. In other words, technology should be used for the sake of the vulnerable, and also it should be used to reduce the digital divide within the society as well as between the nations. And also the technology should be tapped in to address the issues of the global community, for example, like climate change, food crisis. So we have to make use of technologies for these noble causes. So this is the theme 2 for our plan. And the third theme is that we have a lot of challenges to tackle, but as you know, one of the most important challenges is to overcoming the disparity and also becoming an inclusive society that leaves no one behind. So in that sense, the inclusiveness is another very important topic that we stressed in our bid to host the World Expo. And in particular, we emphasize the principle, spirit of the caring and sharing. And I believe that the Busan is really the right city that shows the values of these 3 themes. Why? Because Busan, after the Korean War, the Korea's per capita GDP was the $67, but it increased to $35,000. And Busan played a pivotal role for Korea's remarkable economic strides. And also, Busan is a city that epitomized the development of the democracy in Korea. It's also the city where the continent and the sea meet. And also during the Korean War, more than 1 million refugees from the Korean War came to Busan and settled there, created their own community. So in the sense, Busan is actually a very tolerant and inclusive society that embraces everyone and welcomes everyone. And in the sense, Busan is truly in the right position to host the World Expo in 2030. And so all of these are included in our plan. And this is also the strategy that we are going to use. And also Busan is the world's 2nd largest transshipment port. We are now building the smart port, and also we have established and started the various projects to establish the infrastructures that are connected to the port. So I believe that all of these could be an experimentation for us to explore new options to overcome the climate crisis. That's why we emphasized that the Busan is the right city to host the World Expo. And thank you.
예, 시장님 감사합니다.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, he elaborated on the broader and more comprehensive concept of the rationale for Busan to have a World Expo 2030, especially the caring and sharing. I believe, well, that epitomizes the spirit of Busan. Busan is a city of prosperity, but it also stresses the sharing and caring all at the same time. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to turn to Mr. Cho for his remarks. I think what is really important is to secure the site or the space for World Expo 2030. I think we need to have a massive space for the expo. So how will we secure the space and how to utilize the space? And I'd like to also ask for the status of North Port Redevelopment Project Phase 1. As for the redevelopment of project Phase 1 and 2, for the North Port, but that is a very important national policy project for the current administration. And that is a very important national task for the current administration. On May 31st, we celebrated the Day of Ocean, and I showed the site of the redevelopment to the President of the Republic of Korea, and I reported the status of the redevelopment to him. In order to expedite this process, the infrastructure will be completed for Phase 1 will be completed by the end of this year. And as for the hinterland road network, an underground passage will be completed by 2024. And as for tram, that will be completed by 2027. And for cultural facilities, such as marina, that will be completed. The construction will be completed by 2030. And as for Phase 2, the preliminary feasibility study is almost coming to an end. And I believe we will soon have the preliminary feasibility study result. And once that is completed, we will be able to, based on that, pursue massive scale projects. And as for the administrative procedure, which is in general about 38 months, but we will shorten the time period to 20 months so that we can complete the site preparation by 2027. That is the plan. Thank you.
장관님 말씀 들으니까
Thank you, Ambassador. So if the mayor succeeded in hosting the 2030 Expo, I think Busan is really ready to host that in terms of infrastructure. So far we have had the questions to the mayor as well as the minister, and we have a lot of online participants. And there is a question that how to link the Busan North Port project with the World Expo, and that was very helpful. Now I'd like to ask a question to the Ambassador Mathias Francke. Chile is the world's marine superpower that represents Latin America, especially Valparaiso, in the vicinity of San Diego, has a lot of commonalities with Busan. And after the signing of the two countries' free trade agreements, the trade volume of the two ports have grown significantly. So in this sense, what's your view on Busan's efforts to host World Expo? That's my first question. And second question, in order to earn the support from Latin American countries, what kind of efforts should the Korean government as well as the Busan city exert? I would like to hear your advice for that.
Thank you very much. Difficult question, but let me a couple of points. First of all, you mentioned Valparaiso. Yes, Valparaiso is a main port in Chile, and it's a sister city with Busan since 1999, so more than 20 years. So they have been working in projects together, and one of my duties, and I spoke this with the vice mayor when I was here in Busan in August, and also with with parliamentarians in Chile. Our Congress is in Valparaiso, actually. The capital is Santiago, but the Congress is in Valparaiso. So when I spoke with parliamentarians, particularly the ones on the friendship group between Korea and Chile, the parliamentarians, we also discuss how to invigorate the cooperation between Busan and Valparaiso. Busan, it's important. 85% of our trade, our exports comes into Busan, so that gives a lot of business for custom agency, transportation, storage. And we're talking about more than $4 billion per year from Chilean exports coming into Busan. Busan is also head of KIOS, KIMF, and other organizations that we are working very closely. We are cooperating particularly with KIMF, but also with KIOS. We are hoping to have Chilean officers from the Chilean Navy studying in KIOS starting next year, and also having Korean officers studying navigation in Antarctic waters in Chile. So that's a very, very important that kind of cooperation. Busan, also it's a very city attractive from the point of view of creative industries. I mean, not only the Busan film industry, the film festival, sorry. I'm meeting with them tomorrow, but also other creative industry. And we are trying to develop also creative industry. One of the issue, the things that we're doing in Korea and Chile is also promote our cultural exchanges. So that's very, very important. On Expo Busan bid, our view from the embassy, of course, we are very positive for the reason that I mentioned. This was discussed 2 weeks ago by Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, who met with President of Chile, Boric, and they discussed the issues, the themes. We very much share some of them, particularly the inclusive society. This is something also that I discussed with President Yoon when I presented my credentials in July, and we discussed about the importance of having people centered in all our policies and everything what we do as governments. People has to be in the center. So inclusive development, inclusive trade, it's an important element. Also the global challenges and how Busan and how Korea are facing those global challenges and how we can learn from that and how can Korea also learn from the rest of the world. We haven't taken our decision yet. Sorry, Mayor. I would have loved to come with the decision here. But again, we have the President and Prime Minister had a very good conversation. And my President, I understand informally, he was really excited about Expo Busan. So count with my personal also support and vote. But I'm going to do as best as much as possible back in Santiago so we get an early decision from Chile.
지금 이제 시장께서
Mayor Park will specifically ask for the invitation of the ambassador. I think since this is an opportunity to strongly insist that Busan is the city for Expo 2030 to the Chilean government. And I believe that through 2030 Expo, we will be able to realize the values pursued by Busan. And I hope that this represents a great opportunity for the further exchange between our two nations. Thank you, Ambassador. Well, I think in everyone's mind is Busan's competition against Riyadh of Saudi Arabia for World Expo 2030, and my understanding is that we have quite an equal vote. And how can we win in this bid to have the successful candidacy for World Expo 2030? So I would like to ask for the clear-cut and straightforward answer from the mayor. Which country is doing better and which country is supporting which nation? Well, there have been a lot of news media. Well, some news media says that Korea is at disadvantage. I think, well, for now, it is really not significant at all because one country's position can be changed anytime for any reason. As the ambassador mentioned, Prime Minister Han met with the president of Chile and discussed in depth the ways for the two nations to cooperate further. So through such an in-depth discussion, many countries would see that cooperation with Korea will be in their interest. From a longer-term perspective, I think, well, that will be an opportunity for us to convince those nations. I paid a visit to 5 nations in Latin America, and through that I came to see that whether it's World Cup or Olympic Games, well, IOC members and the FIFA members are critical in the final decision. But as for Expo, World Expo, it is quite critical to persuade the leader of that nation to joining you. So I think the decision hinges on what kind of support we can offer and what kind of collaboration we can do down the road. So this is a venue for us to have a very detailed discussion as to the future collaboration. If we do our best in obtaining and in inviting World Expo 2030, we will be exploring various ways for creative cooperation with many nations around the globe. So this will be a critical opportunity for Korea to grow its national competence. So this is not just about World Expo 2030, but this is an opportunity, genuine opportunity for Korea to further its collaboration and cooperation with nations around the globe. And as the center, marine center of Korea, Busan will enjoy a vast opportunity to network with cities around the world and to work with countries around the world. And I believe that's what we can get through this candidacy for World Expo 2030. Korea is so multifaceted country. Korea has all the elements we need to have, and in each area we have world-class competitiveness, ranging from ICT technology all the way to green technology and K-pop. And Korea has every element it needs to have to invite World Expo 2030, and in each area we have potential partners. Korea is such an attractive nation, and Korean culture is quite familiar to anyone thanks to the K-pop, and young people around the world want to know more about Korea and the Korean culture. If we redouble our efforts, if we come closer to them, then we will be able to identify areas for close cooperation. And after this candidacy, Korea will be able to enjoy very strong and robust partnership with 170 nations across the globe. And we will be able to create a new collaborative framework down the road. That's the perspective we have for running for World Expo 2030. And I believe the process of this candidacy itself will be in the interest of not just Korea, but also all the nations throughout the globe. Thank you.
감사합니다. 저희들도 지금 지켜보고
Thank you, Mayor. What we feel now is that our goal is not just to host the World Expo, rather together with the 170 countries. I believe that our real goal is to create a strong connection with the 170 countries around the world. So in this sense, I think Mayor Park really made a valuable contribution, and I really thank him for that. World Expo, as you know, there is a central government agency that has main responsibility, which are the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. And the site, the candidate site for the World Expo is under the supervision of the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. And also the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, it played a crucial role for Yeosu's successful bidding of the Yeosu Expo. And in that sense, previously, so that's why the ministry shows a strong passion and support for Busan, and in particular, the minister, as a special presidential ambassador, last July visited the countries in the South Pacific in order to promote the expo And in this sense, what kind of roles can the ministry play further for the successful bidding of the World Expo for Busan? Can you also share with us your visit to the South Pacific nations? Yes, so Busan is the Korea's largest #1 marine city. So the development of Busan equals the development of marine sector in Korea, as well as the development of Korea as a ocean powerhouse. And that's why we have provided strong support for Busan to succeed in its bidding. And also the main government agencies for this project is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. In particular, the reason that our ministry has special interest in this is because the Busan port, it has a long history and it has risen from the ashes of the Korean War, and it has made a remarkable development. And so it has really fulfilled its duties as a port. And now the Busan port, however, it also caused a lot of inconvenience to citizens. So now what we are working on is to eliminate these inconveniences to return the Busan port back to the citizens. And in that sense, I believe that the Busan port really shows the entire history that a port should go through. And as you mentioned, for the hosting of the Yeosu Expo, yes, we had a great experience and we have all the expertise. And we also witnessed with our own eyes how Yeosu has been transformed since the hosting of the Yeosu Expo. And in that sense, for the sake of the Busan development and also the development of Korea, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries will continue to their best. And we'll work with the Ministry of Trade as well. And because we are the government agency that deals with the marine issues, and therefore everyone in our ministry, we all believe that we are the special ambassadors to promote Busan as the host city for World Expo. So whenever the opportunity is available, we try to take the best advantage of them to promote Busan. So I visited the South Pacific nations, including Fiji, as a special presidential ambassador, and I visited a lot of heads of state who participate there for the BIE meeting. And while having discussions with the countries in the South Pacific, I realized that the Busan experience can be a great assistance for them for their development. And I believe that this could be sort of the big selling point, that with the hosting of the World Expo, Busan can transfer its development experiences and know-hows to these countries. And also we have a common factor that all of us to have the oceans, and so they were highly interested in the climate change and how the marine environment affects the climate change. And unlike other World Cups or the Olympic Games, so unlike the sports events, World Expo is decided by the government, and also it's critically related with the future of a nation. And therefore, even the underdeveloped nations, they are not really swayed by the one-off proposal for a certain business. Rather, they're caring more about how to build a better future for their future generations to prosper. And in the sense, they are eager to learn from Korea's experience. So in the sense, I believe that the Busan is not really lagging behind the Riyadh of the Saudi Arabia. And also, through the process, some countries, I cannot mention the specific names of the nations, but there are some nations who already made it clear that they're going to officially support Busan. So that's a big achievement that we have made so far.
장관님.
Thank you, Minister. I believe the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries has the strongest network overseas among all the ministries in Korea. And as you mentioned, that we can make the most of Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries network for the successful candidacy of Busan for World Expo 2030. Thank you very much. Then I'd like to ask the ambassador. Well, Busan is actively engaged in promoting Busan Expo, World Expo 2030 in Busan. Then the ambassador. I think you have gone through all the materials for the successful bid. Do you think you can compare the two candidate cities, Busan and Riyadh, for their probability of winning the bid? Because we will see the final outcome only in a year's time. So is there any advice you can give us? Well, which area of Busan we should highlight for the successful candidacy? I'd like to ask for your advice, Ambassador. I'm sorry, that's such a difficult question.
It's a very difficult question because I have no idea about Saudi Arabia and its bid. I also understand that Rome is also a candidate, so there are 3 cities. But let me 2 points. One of them, I think, to assure the audience here, the effort that the government, the Korean government, and the business community and the cultural community, I mean, the BTS concert last week, it's very impressive. I have never seen this in my 30 years of diplomatic life. So I have to commend that, to the government, to the private sector, of course the city of Busan, traveling around the world as the mayor, the minister, the prime minister, the business community. I've been discussing Expo Busan not only with the government but also with Kia, with POSCO, with SK. So everybody's involved in that. And I think that's a big asset. That's a very positive asset that when the whole country, from top leaders down to all the companies are involved in this project, I think that's very important, and you have to take benefit of that. And rest assured that the government, at least from the point of view of this ambassador, humble ambassador, have done the maximum effort to bring this candidacy. Again, these decisions are usually taken with other considerations, but if it's from the point of view of what Korea has been doing, I mean, that's a great effort. So, chapeau for Korea. My second point is the issue of cooperation, and the mayor is right. No, for developing countries like Chile, we have been cooperating with Korea, as I mentioned, on maritime issues, on Antarctic issues, on many issues regarding the sea and the oceans. In APEC, no, when we were hosting APEC in 2019, we were able to adopt 2 big important roadmaps. One roadmap on marine debris and the other one on illegal, unregulated fisheries. And those are being implemented by members, and they have been supplemented with new roadmaps on small-scale fisheries. So Busan, again, has a very important place in APEC history. No? In 2005, Busan hosted the leaders here in a very nice place here, close to the port. And I guess Busan will also have a very important voice in 2025 when Korea again hosts APEC. So we are doing a lot of things. We are also working in the South Pacific Regional Fisheries Management Organization with Korea. It's a very innovative RFMO, different to others. The precautionary approach and the multi-systemic approach in that RFMO is really, really important. So we are cooperating, but not all countries in the world are cooperating. So the points regarding the mayor about new cooperation, new ways of cooperation with those who are already cooperating with Korea, but also those countries, nations who are starting to cooperate with Korea, I think that will be very important. Not only after Expo Busan, but before and during Expo Busan. How we also, developing countries, can have a voice in Expo Busan, how we can also have a say in Expo Busan, how we can also discuss our issues, developing countries' issue with Korea, with the other 170-something countries who hopefully will be here in Expo Busan in 2030. So those are my comments. I didn't answer your question, but I think I gave some elements there. 감사합니다.
대사님께서 충분히 말씀을 해주신 것 같고.
Thank you very much. I think that really suffices. And so far what we have talked about, so he summarized all the things that we have talked about, so the government effort and also the cooperation with the private sector, as well as the cooperation with various sectors of the society. So whatever will happen, because we have a strong support from the ministry and also from mayor. I believe that all of our efforts will be valuable anyway for the better future of Busan. Because of time constraint, we would like to entertain one last question to the minister. So anything that you want to get from mayor? That's my final question to you. So was the mayor part of the Busan Metropolitan government? We have always in communication, so there's nothing special that I would like to ask for him. But maybe to citizens and also members of the marine sector. I hope that we can continue to have a consistent communication so that Busan Metropolitan City will make a huge success in the hosting of the World Expo and also pursuing the Bukang Development Project. And Busan World Expo, I believe 70% of this event is about marine. So I hope that you really give us a strong support for this. And in the sense, the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, yes, we have a lot of organizations and also people dispatched from the ministry in Busan. But across the nation, we established the task force team that includes the government officers, private sector representatives, and so on, in order to provide a very strong support for Busan to succeed in its bid to host World Expo. And so this is an expo on ocean, let's say, on the topics of the ocean, and therefore the people in the ocean and the fisheries sectors must pay attention and provide strong support. And also the fact that if we could host the World Expo in the city of Busan, then focus will be inevitably on the sea, and sea is actually a major player for us to address the issues of the climate change. So in that sense, I sincerely hope that we all can galvanize a strong momentum for Busan's success. So thank you once again.
I think, well, your comment was after a mayor's heart. So your last message to the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries as well as the Busan citizens. This morning, I met with the foreign ministers of 5 countries from Latin America. I met with them one by one, and I had a group discussion as well. And as I mentioned, we discussed the ways for future cooperation between Korea and those nations and between Busan and those nations. And the Pacific countries' foreign ministers will come down to Busan today, and I have such high expectations for the role to be played by the minister. Now, they will stay in Busan till tomorrow. I think this is possible thanks to the unsparing support by the central government for Busan. The foreign minister is making an arrangement for any international conferences to be held in Busan. So we have such a great support and assistance. I believe I'm so lucky that we have such an utmost support from the central government as well as from the cultural community and the businesses. And Busan and all those different sectors and industries as well as the central government are playing as one team. That's quite encouraging. I'm so grateful. I'd like to ask for the continued support from Busan citizens, and I will make my utmost effort for the successful candidacy of World Expo 2030. And through this process, the successful bid would be quite important, but I believe through this process of running full World Expo 2030, we will be able to establish Busan as a world-class brand. And I hope that we have a close and friendly relationship with all the cities across the globe. And I hope that World Expo 2030 will set the direction for the human civilization down the road, so that we can further our global cooperation for the good of the planet. Once again, I'd like to ask for your inspiring support. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Minister, and thank you, Ambassador. We had the first special talk on Busan's candidacy for World Expo 2030. We have covered various topics and ideas. I hope we will have Busan Expo 2030. Thank you.